chance to have Honorable Sardar Asif Ahmed Ali Sahab, former Foreign Minister of Pakistan and the Chairman of the OIC, Lord Qurban Ahmed, Lord Tariq Ahmed, Air Marshal Wiles from the Royal Air Force, Lauren Pringle, the President of the Oxford Union, distinguished members of the business community, and my dear fellows and colleagues. As the President of the Oxford University Pakistan Society, I welcome you all to the Pakistan Future Leaders Conference 2012. Today, we have among us almost 300 delegates from 45 different universities from all across the country. We have among us the students, professionals, policymakers, and academics from across the country, representing more than 25 organizations, and also the top universities within the country. A lot of effort has been made to make this event possible. I would particularly like to thank our partners, Cambridge University Pakistan Society and the SOAS Pakistan Society, for their contribution. I would also like to thank Oxford Union, who have provided this historic and prestigious platform for this conference. Distinguished members of the business community and the members of the alumni of our society who donated generously to make the conference possible. Last but not least, we would like to express our warm gratitude to our media partners, Geo TV Network and the Jung Group for fully supporting us in this endeavor. The Oxford University Pakistan Society has been in existence for the last 50 years and has a strong tradition of promoting and furthering the cause for a progressive and truly democratic Pakistan. And it is with this in mind that we have taken the initiative, along with the SOS and Cambridge Pakistan Societies, to initiate a program aimed towards fostering a culture of forward-looking debate, coexistence, and mutual respect. I emphasize on you to open your minds and partake in Oxford's rich tradition of debate, critical analysis, and freedom of speech. And what better place to start this process than the historic debating chamber of the Oxford Union, which over the years has become a symbol of free speech and liberal ethos. And on this ending note, I would like, first of all, to invite Ms. Lauren Pringle, the President of the Oxford Union, to say a few words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It falls upon me to welcome you here to the Oxford Union. We are so very pleased that you could all make it and join us here this weekend. So thank you very much. I would say Pakistan and the Oxford Union have a long history of working together, with Benazir Bhutto as a former president while she was here studying at Oxford. And I'm so pleased to be able to see that partnership continuing whilst I'm president. So finally, I'd just like to say welcome and have a fantastic weekend.
So I would like to invite one of our distinguished speakers, Lord Tariq Ahmed, to say a few words, and that will be followed with a few other distinguished speakers. Lord Tariq Ahmed.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the gracious, most merciful. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm Assalamu alaikum. Although I must admit the word warm is something that we all can focus on for a moment or two. The short walk over from the car park just now was scaling the Antarctica, perhaps, in the bitterness of the cold. But as I said to my wife, that was soon replaced very much by the warmth of the welcome. And may I firstly say to the Oxford Union, and indeed to the President of the Pakistan Society of the Oxford Union, thank you for inviting me here. It's an absolute pleasure and indeed privilege to be here amongst you all. And to the Pakistani students, this evening and these few days are very much focused on you. And that is important, for in you, your focus, your attention lies the future of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, let me describe a country. Its lowest point on the Indian Ocean coast at sea level, its highest point on the mighty K2, the world's second tallest mountain. Great cities exist in this country for over 5,000 years. We can talk of the Indus civilization, where its rich history has seen Greeks in the guise of Alexander the Great and Persian cultures, and their historic legacy remains even today in that country. A country whose educational and historical infrastructure reflects its connection with the deep-rooted links of the days of the British Empire and the country where I'm proud to serve as a parliamentarian today. The potential of this land, and that's a crucial word, ladies and gentlemen, the potential of this land is incredible. Be it in arable terms, from the arable fields of the Punjab and Sindh to the gemstone and mineral wealth of the northern regions. A country rich in resource, rich in people. A country of over 180 million people, where cultures, people and lands literally meet. It is one of those unique places, and by that, ladies and gentlemen, I do mean unique. 4 mountain regions meet. What a unique position that God has bestowed. The country is the country of Pakistan. From the southern ports of Gwadar to the northern towns of Gilgit, from the port city of Karachi to the K2, the land of Pakistan is blessed in landscape, its natural resources, and the wealth of its most valuable resource, its people. The potential, ladies and gentlemen, is phenomenal. Yet, let us for a moment just look at the Pakistan of today. The perception, and that word is also quite important, the perception that exists of Pakistan, the picture which is often portrayed in the media. That, sadly, also, in certain respects, the reality on the ground in Pakistan is somewhat different. Poverty, illiteracy, corruption, and the rising tide of extremism, and the destruction of a secular, modern, progressive Islamic society through a deteriorating law and order situation is all too evident, but also of deep concern. Not just to the people of Pakistan, not just to the wider region, but to the world as a whole. And it is important that we come together, we raise a voice against this extremism. It is a global issue and it requires a global solution. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud that the government, the coalition government, the Conservative-led government of our country stands side by side with Pakistan in seeking to curb extremism, fight radicalism, but not through token gestures. You will all recall, in the not-so-distant past, the Prime Minister of our country, David Cameron, himself went to Pakistan. And in that, and work with the government of Pakistan, more importantly the people of Pakistan, to secure its future. It was the British government which gave close to $1 billion of educational aid. And we continue to work with NGOs, community activists, like the incredible Idi Sahib, who I hope will be supported as we push forward, and I hope indeed he's recognised for his efforts through a Nobel Peace Prize. But it's people like him, community activists on the ground, who do not see who they seek to serve, do not see limits to the people who are in need. They see one thing, that is, it's Pakistan, the people of Pakistan that are in need. And people like Idi Sahib serve unrelenting with a vision to do something greater for this country blessed with natural resource. Educational development and commerce are also important vital elements. And the people element, in terms of education, is where all of you come in. The potential, that word again, ladies and gentlemen, to realize what today lies in front of you, what you can achieve and contribute. I assure you, I stand before you, the son of a migrant who was born in India before the partition, lost everything as he moved to the port city of Karachi, and came to our shores here in Britain in the early 50s. With £5 to his name, he took the opportunity to build a life for himself, for his family, and from the extraordinary opportunities offered to him by my country, Great Britain. And it is testament to my parents' efforts, to the blessings undoubtedly of God Almighty, but also of the incredible opportunities that Great Britain in terms of educational and advancement, be it economic or social, that I am proud yet humbled to stand before you as a member of the British House of Lords. Ladies and gentlemen, and I refer particularly to the students, education is a most powerful tool. I remember, and I'll share a story with you here, when I was young, very young, some may say I'm young now, but I leave that for you to determine. But nevertheless, by the comparison of the House of Lords, perhaps I still am. But I remember I wasn't a great person for mathematics. And you know what? I was one of those shy, retiring types. The sound of the doorbell ringing meant Tariq legging it upstairs to his bedroom, hoping his mother or father wouldn't drag him down. But you know, I was fortunate to have parents that I did, sitting there on those summer holidays, getting through those fractions, sitting there welcoming guests, having to excuse myself. Gosh, what a challenge that was. But you know what? It helped, and it made me what I am today. Someone who has a background in the City of London, finance, believe it or not, and also someone who is in serving and proud to be serving in public life. But that is also testament to the opportunities education empowers you with. The ability to move forward, the ability to progress, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the ability to contribute to society. And that is what Pakistan so desperately needs from all its sons and daughters. And one famous daughter who I'm proud is looking down on me today, the late but extraordinary Muhtarama Benazir Bhutto. Education, as the founder of Pakistan said, builds character. It also builds morals. And that's exactly what today should possess. In pursuit of building a secure, a stable, an economically vibrant and prosperous and peaceful Pakistan. In this modern era, perhaps, as we look towards Pakistan and the region, it's difficult for a nation to imagine that it could exist like that. But with education, ladies and gentlemen, you can achieve. And therefore, to the students here, I say to you, excel in every field. Pakistan is full of natural resources. It is blessed. But its people, and indeed its future leaders, are the vital and final ingredient for success. Some talk in Pakistan in terms of the brain drain, which is becoming increasingly detrimental, and that's detrimental for any country. Recently, I was privileged to represent the government in Azerbaijan, and one of the things that struck me about the president there, he talked of the gold, the black gold of his country, but ultimately he talked of the human gold of his people. And Pakistan, I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, you are living real practical examples of the human gold of Pakistan, the future of Pakistan. In the modern era, ladies and gentlemen, strong character, good morality are becoming increasingly qualities, and that is what our youth should aspire to. The founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, emphasized for the youth to build strong character. Through this quality, youth can easily eliminate a variety of plagues, be it corruption, fraud, the black market, for building a cleaner, vibrant Pakistan, which is incumbent for any nation, and is incumbent upon all of you to help take that next generation forward. Defend human rights, stand against the persecution of people, strengthen democracy through meritocracy and a common electoral base. And look towards your neighbours, not with the historical eyes of enemies, but as future allies and partners to build the regional balances, the regional strength. What a powerful bloc the likes of Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh could mean to the world in the future. Be true ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, to your essence of the message of the founder of Pakistan when he addressed the nation and he said, 3 essential ingredients to success: unity, faith and discipline are a landmark, earmark for success. If I may seek the President and indeed the President of the Oxford Union's indulgence in conclusion, I may, if I want, just wish to revert to Urdu, the language of Pakistan, and just addressing the students, say this. आपके सामने यो आज एक चीज पेश हो गई है, आपके पास एक मौका है, आप एक मुल्क को बनाएं, तालीम है, जो आप तालीम यहां सीखते हैं उसको अपने वतन वापस लेके जाएं और यकीन रखें अगर ईमान और अदल के साथ आप काम करेंगे, कोई दुनिया की ताकत ऐसी नहीं है जो आपको रोक सकेगी और तरक्की आपकी होगी। अल्लाह ताला पे भरोसा रखें पूरी तरह और मैं यकीन दिलाता हूं कि तरक्की मिलेगी। आखिर में मेरे वालिद साहब मरहूम, उनको कुछ शेर व शायरी का शौक था। मैं खुद तो पैदाइशी यहाँ का हूं, मगर इस मौके को देखते हुए आज मैंने सोचा तारिक आप भी कुछ कोशिश कर लें, तो पेशे खिदमत कुछ आपकी उम्मीद है आप महसूस होंगे कुछ। पैगाम है नौजवानों, सुनो एक बात मेरी ओ कौम के नौजवान, जगाओ वो तस्वीर कायद आज़म यो है असली वतन ए पाकिस्तान। बनाओ उन जैसे, बन जाओ उन जैसे यो बुनियादी साथी थे कायद के, अल्लामा इकबाल, लियाकत अली और ज़फ़रुल्लाह खान। कहीं काम करने अपना पहचानो, मुल्क को हमेशा उसका नाम रोशन रखो, बन जाओ तुम पाकिस्तान की पहचान, क्या यो भी हो तुम्हारा मैदान। वर्जिशी मुकाबलजात में बन सकते हो तुम अगले जहांगीर, जहांगीर या इमरान, या बन तुम अगली आलम साइंसदान जैसे था पाकिस्तान का चमकता सितारा नोबेल लॉरिएट अब्दुल सलाम। बना डालो इंसानियत को जमहूरियत की बुनियाद। दुआ है मेरी, बन जाओ तुम कौम के सच्चे और हकीकी आवाज। याद रखो इंसाफ, अदल और अवाम के वफा में मिल जाएगी तुम्हें असली अयाज। तो ये कायदे आज़म की तसव्वुर को तुम्हारी जिम्मेदारी है, हकीकत में बदल दो वो ख्वाब जनाब और बन जाओ वो कायदे आज़म के वफादार पाकिस्तानी। अल्लाह ताला हम सबको जो भी हमारी जिम्मेदारियां हैं पूरी तरह हमारे साथ रहे, बना दे। और मेरी दिली ख्वाहिश है कि आप अपनी तालीमी लिहाज में भी कामयाबी हासिल करें और पाकिस्तान को आपकी ज़रूरत है। और मैं आपके लिए दुआ करूंगा और इस आजिज़ इंसान के लिए आप भी दुआ करें कि हम पूरों को अपनी जिम्मेदारी करने की पूरी तौफीक अता फरमाएं। वाखिर दावाना अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, Lord Tariq Ahmed sir. And with this, I would now like to invite Lord Qurban Hussain to say a few words for us, please. Lord Qurban Hussain.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My Lordship, Lord Ahmed, Sardar Asif Ahmed Ali Sahab, the Chairman of Pakistan Society, Oxford, Chairman of or the President of Oxford Union, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you all. First of all, let me thank the Oxford University Pakistan Society for inviting me here today and allowing me to share my thoughts with you on the subject of Pakistan's future leaders. I'm not a great speaker, and English is not my first language either. I wasn't born here. I must have declared the interest. By birth, I'm a Pakistani. But I have lived here enough to be able to communicate reasonably well in all circumstances in Pakistan. Future leadership needs to be persuaded to consider education, and particularly science and technology, to be higher up in the national priorities. I have lived in England for most of my life, but when I think about Pakistan and the challenges that it faces, I often look towards other developing countries, such as Malaysia. For its success in political stability, democracy, and industrial development. I'm a great admirer of Mahathir Mohamad, the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, for many reasons. One of them was that the way he maximized the potential of young people and his close association and contact with students studying inside the country and abroad. And let me tell you a little story. Once I was traveling to London in train, and I met a group of 30 or 40 Malaysian students in the train. When I asked that they were going to London, where their Prime Minister at the time, Mahathir Mohamad, was visiting London, and he had invited every one of them to get an update what they were studying, at what stage their studies were, when are they going to finish their studies, so that he can plan for them to be adjusted in the government back in Malaysia. I was very impressed. And I wished if Pakistan had similar leadership with same kind of vision. Since Pakistan is suffering from brain drain, as the brightest and the most intelligent young people are not encouraged enough to serve the nation at home, and they seek better prospects in foreign countries. Pakistan desperately needs a Mahathir Mohamad approach in this regard. British universities have historical link with Pakistan, since many of our legend and contemporary leaders like Dr. Iqbal, Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Chaudhry Muhammad Ali, Liaquat Ali Khan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Benazir Bhutto, Imran Khan, and many others have been educated in Britain. And I can see many of you in front of me who I hope will play a leading role in Pakistan once they go back to their studies. For those families who have already settled in the United Kingdom, and I'm sure there are some students here, of course, from the community who actually has settled here in the UK, from Pakistan, they have the dual role to play. They need to make education a top priority for themselves and their children, and make best use of opportunities available to them here. The aim should be not only to gain formal qualifications, but also to uphold their values, traditions, and heritage. Britain is a true democracy, a multicultural, a multi-faith, a vibrant and a tolerant nation. It is a land of opportunities. And opportunities come with responsibilities. We need to grasp the opportunities that it offers and accept the responsibilities as well. There are many success stories for those who obtained primary education from Pakistan or were born and brought up here in UK, worked extremely hard and achieved maximum in many fields and earned a good name for Pakistan. Many of the parliamentarians, such as Lord Ahmed, there are many other good examples of success stories. There are many of us who are serving in international organizations at the highest level, and we are proud of them too. At the end, may I say, whether you choose to excel in this country or return to Pakistan, the best. Allah Hafiz.
Privileged to have among us Sardar Asif Ahmad Ali Sahib, who is a stalwart of Pakistani politics. Sardar Sahib has served Pakistan in a number of capacities. He remained a federal minister for over 9 years and has held portfolios of education and foreign affairs, among others. Along with his distinguished political career, he is also a graduate of the St. John's College in Oxford and also a poet and a painter. His book of English poetry has been published, and he has also exhibited his work of painting at the national level. So, without holding you further, I would like to invite Sardar Asif Ahmad Ali Sahib to give us the keynote address. Sardar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My Lords, Qurban, Lady Anne, President of the Oxford Union, President of the Oxford Union Pakistan Society, Oxonians, young students, ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely delighted to be with you this evening. And I feel like the proverbial prodigal son having come home. Many, many moons ago, so many moons ago that I think you were not even born then, I spent my time at St. John's College. And those years were years of intense academic life, intense life indeed. And one left the portals of St. John with a will to seek truth, to seek knowledge, and to serve society and human beings wherever they may be. I'm very happy to observe that in my day, the Oxford Union Bar was a warm and a hearty place. It is still a warm and a hearty place. And this debating chamber was always a little chilly, and I'm glad that you kept that tradition alive. But in this chamber, I've heard very eminent people, far more eminent than me, but the greatest speech I've heard, at least in my life, was rendered from this dais by the late Malcolm X. A man of great stature. I also had the distinction of appearing in a movie which was shot at St. John's College in Charles Quadrangle. By the leading actor was Mr. Gregory Peck. And I happened to be invited and had the honor of acting for the whole of 5 seconds with him. And those 5 seconds were so rewarding that we chose not to take the compensation of 5 guineas, but we chose to have lunch with Mr. Gregory Patrick Randolph, which was indeed very rewarding and very fascinating experience. Mr. President, Madam President, and Mr. President of the Society, this is indeed a unique honor for me to be invited here this evening and to share some thoughts with you. But I must warn you that a long time ago in 1991, there was a war in the Arab lands. It was called the 1991 war. And I happened to be a member of the Pakistan's Parliament or the National Assembly. I was not a minister. It was my second or third run in the Assembly there. But I was asked by the then government of British Nawaz Sharif to make a speech to halt the tide of popularity which Mr. Saddam Hussein, late Saddam Hussein, had let loose in my country. And the government of the day had a serious problem. Even their own MPs and ministers would stand in the floor of the House and speak in favor of Saddam Hussein. The opposition too was speaking in favor of Saddam Hussein. Such were the emotions. I was asked to speak, and I put a condition to the then Prime Minister that I must be given unlimited time to halt this tide of popular support for Saddam Hussein. And this time was granted to me. Don't be too alarmed when I say that I gave the longest speech in the history of Pakistan, the National Assembly, a speech which lasted 9 hours and 7 minutes. Seeing this distinguished audience, which is a mix of the young and the old, and Oxonians, I must warn you, I'm a little tempted to carry on around this. But then I reminded myself that what Shakespeare said, brevity is the soul of wit. So I should be influenced by Shakespeare this evening, rather than by my wishes. So while we must be brief, we also must be truthful. And when it is a question of being truthful, I think caution and discretion must be thrown to the winds. That was the lessons that we learned in our colleges and with our tutors. And I think it would be fair on you if I stood here and praised Pakistan's governance, the performance of its governments, the performance of its politicians, its civil servants, or its generals. I think it would be unfair on you to do that. If you were to say to me that politicians in Pakistan have been very corrupt in the last 2 or 3 decades, I would not have an argument with you. If you were to say to me that the civil servants of Pakistan by and large have been rapacious, I don't think I'll argue with you again on this score. If you were to say to me that the generals of Pakistan armed forces have led the country astray, I will not have an argument with you. If you were to say to me that the mullahs have distorted Islam and used it to strengthen themselves financially and politically, I would not have an argument with you. I would agree to whatever such statements you made. And I would then argue that I think something in 1947, India was partitioned. It was broken into India and Pakistan. I think that's an event which is probably one of the most unique events in the annals of history anyway. And it brought the best out of the people of Pakistan. When there was nothing in the coffers, the administration was weak, the armed forces were weak, there were no revenues, and yet the country survived those 2 to 3 years, and because it had the will to survive. It was a compulsion to survive. And then what later transpired in Pakistan, we deviated from what would have been the foundation, the genesis of Pakistan, the philosophical genesis of Pakistan, which were to be based on 2 foundation documents to inspire this country to play the role that it was meant to play. Was the last sermon of the great Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him. The last sermon is not about Muslims. It's not a message for the Muslim Ummah. The last sermon of the Prophet was about humanity, all humanity. It is the most inclusive statement that I've ever read in any civilization, anywhere. Nothing will be more inclusive than the last khutbatul wada than the Prophet. Had that been the spring of inspiration for Pakistan, we would not have erred. We would not have deviated so far away from that noble message. The other document that should have been the foundation stone of the country was the first khutbah. Should not call it khutbah. The presidential address of Mr. Jinnah to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. In 1947, this presidential address, he made it very clear what sort of Pakistan he wanted. And I would like to quote, hopefully correctly, I don't know the exact words. But if I recall, this is what he said. That you may go to your temples, you may go to your churches, you may go to your mosques, or any other places of worship that you choose. That shall have nothing to do with the business of state. I think if we had been truthful, if we had been sincere, 2 important documents, and if we had been sincere to the poetry of Muhammad Iqbal, who we call Ilama Iqbal, then this is not where we would have been in Pakistan. Now the interesting thing is that this is the only country in the world that was inspired by the poetry of a poet. Pakistan was the inspiration of a poet. So this should have taken us to great heights, but it did not. Something went wrong somewhere. And we need to understand what went wrong. I think what went wrong in my own view, that we converted the state, which was composed of the East and West, and of people of great diversity in languages, ethnicity, cultures, subcultures, and very tolerant subcultures. Pakistan was a very tolerant country. It is an inheritor of the Indus Valley civilization. So from that tolerance, something went wrong and we took the wrong path. And what path did we take? We converted this tolerant Muslim society into a religious society. The state of Pakistan chose to turn it into a religious state. And so it was put into the constitution, and ultimately we have the constitution, which has all the elements of a modern federal parliamentary democracy. But we predicated that on religion. And I think that's where we went wrong. Why? Because an ideological state will inevitably fall into the hands of ideologues. We opened the doors to ideologues, the mullahs. So the mullah came out of the mosque. He had no contribution in the making of Pakistan. It's not the mullah who made Pakistan. Mullah opposed Pakistan totally. He did his damnedest that Pakistan should not be made. But despite his use of the mosque, despite his lies from the pulpits, despite his thundering of the verses of the Holy Quran, to his own ends, Pakistan was made. When Pakistan got made, then we decided to unmake the Pakistan in Janayat period by turning it into a religious state, by turning the constitution into a religious constitution. As I said earlier, an ideological state will be run by ideologues. If you look at Iran, it's run by their mullahs, the clergy. The clergy runs Iran. The commissar ran Soviet Union, the communist system. The party secretary run the Chinese Communist Party. So the moment we have an ideological state, you will have ideologues and commissars and the mullahs to run it for you. And this is, I think, where we erred. One of the great setbacks to Pakistan was, I just heard the Air Vice Marshal. I'm very impressed with what he had to say. We are very proud of our armed forces as well. We had one of the best, one of the most professional armies in the world. We turned that professional army into an ideological army. So when you turn a professional army into an ideological army, then the professionalism, the excellence, the training, then something goes wrong with profession, because then it's an ideological army. And then the mullahs were very excited about it. They were able to penetrate into the armed forces and were able to influence the thinking, the thought process of the entire army. Now, having said all this, where did it take us? It took us into quarrels with our neighbors, quarrel with India. It took us into quarrels with Afghanistan, where we became a frontline state. We were able to help the Western world to defeat the Soviet Union, which was aim of the American President Ronald Reagan to destroy the evil empire. So we became the biggest contributor and the biggest participant in this war empire. And foolishly, the then dictator Ziaul opened the doors to all criminal elements in the Muslim world who labeled themselves as jihadis. They were collected from all over the world, they were trained, and then they were let loose in Afghanistan to fulfill an agenda which was not the agenda of Pakistan, which was the agenda of the Cold War. I'm one of those who sat in the National Assembly in 1987, and I was a member of the opposition then. I said we had bought a bad story from Washington. This is not the story of Pakistan. This is not a story we should have pursued. I spoke for about an hour and a half that the evil empire of the Soviet Union was not about to reach the warm waters of the Arabian Sea. This is not what they were doing in Afghanistan. And I analyzed for the Parliament that what had really gone wrong in the Soviet Union. And what had really gone wrong was the empire, the Soviet empire, like all other empires at some point or the other, become top-heavy, become unsustainable, become too expensive, and the people of that empire suffer because there's nothing left for the people. Everything goes into pursuing the goals and the aspirations of that empire. And those that in the Soviet Union, it is called the nomenclatura, a group of about 150,000 people who were walking away with most of the resources of the Soviet Union and spending huge amounts of money on wars in distant lands and supporting revolutionary regimes all over the world. So consequently there was nothing left for the people of the Soviet Union. And the whole empire was on the verge of collapse in the mid-80s. And the Central Asian states were the soft underbelly of that empire. So out of fear and insecurity, they had to move into Afghanistan to prevent any penetration of the southern Russian republics from the south. We misread that. And I said this, as I said earlier, in a speech to the Pakistani Parliament, that we have made a serious error of judgment, or perhaps a military dictator wanted his legitimacy. Military dictators, unfortunately, that is why democracy doesn't seem to work in Pakistan. Because half the time we've had military dictators running our lives. And military dictators have never been given the mandate by the people of Pakistan. They come in, they hold a referendum which nobody goes to vote. Then they go running to Washington, and some opportunity on the world stage presents itself, and they market that opportunity to get legitimacy from Washington. And Washington then also, it's not working for the welfare of the people. It's not working for the development and progress of the country. It is working for its own agendas, which is some sort of a strategic death in Afghanistan, ambitions in Kashmir and India, and I'm not saying we for Kashmir, we must talk about Kashmir. We've got a wonderful case on Kashmir. But to put the entire province of Pakistan and the future of Pakistan and turn it into hostage, if people of Pakistan are remaining hostage to a dispute, then I think it's unjust, it's unfair to the people of Pakistan. They must live lives in ignorance because the youth have been let down. The state of Pakistan has not done a thing for the youth of Pakistan. The state of Pakistan has done nothing for the health of the people. So some minor disease conflagrates into an epidemic and hundreds of people die. And the state of Pakistan has not done anything for their health, anything for their education, for providing services, utilities, electricity, gas, water, clean drinking water. Most of the people of Pakistan do not have the facility of clean drinking water.